Hello, everybody. I'm Tasharia.
And I'm Tasha.
And we're the Turners. Welcome to Turner Talk Podcast. We have a very special guest. I say, hey, this is Justice.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome in, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We are happy to have you. Today, we are talking about postpartum depression, anxiety, and all the things.
All the things.
All the things. Okay, so Justice, tell us a little bit about you as people come in. And then for those that's watching on the replay, you get it right now. Get it right now.
So I'm Tasharia's cousin. Let's just put it out there. This is family. I'm happy to be here. I'm a new mom. I have a 3-month-old baby. I'm a wife. I'm a former TV reporter. I'm now in public relations and communication storyteller. So pretty much I work with brands, organizations to tell their stories. But the purpose here today is to talk about the last 15, 16 weeks of my life, being a new mom, and kind of what postpartum has looked like, and have a conversation about things that we just don't talk enough about.
I know that's right. That pardon the interruption. My bad. We always have to have something going on. And I'm grateful that you decided to or agree to talk about this, because like when I was a new mom, I was like, I didn't know what was going on. Mm-hmm. And now we hear a lot of things in the news and in the world that like, oh, they just snapped. Okay, so let's talk about this. So you this is the research queen, okay? When I tell you she been researching it, I'm like, but I was doing some research. I'm like, when do you sleep, girl? When do you sleep?
I have a new baby. What is sleep?
She said you looked at her wrist because you got time today. Okay, so tell us what you learned through your process about the differences between postpartum depression and anxiety.
So I think for me, I'm a very self-aware person on a normal day. So like on a normal day, I can wake up and be like, something is off today. My energy isn't right. And I'm an anxious person on a normal day. I worry about any and everything. The sky just might not be just as blue as it needs to be, and I'm a little concerned. But in doing some research, I knew I wasn't depressed. Like, I mean, you can look at depression and you know what depression looks like, and it looks different for everybody. Not wanting to get out of the bed, not wanting to take a bath, like, things like that. Depression looks different for everybody. I wasn't depressed, but I knew that my anxiety had been amplified times 50 after bringing home a new human being that, like, my husband and I were now responsible for forever, like for the rest of her life. So for me, I had to do a lot of digging. I joined a lot of groups on Facebook, mom groups of moms who had, been going through postpartum depression and anxiety, just kind of to see what really resonated. And it really resonated with me that it was postpartum anxiety. What I was going through was just that.
And so at what point did you realize that it was postpartum anxiety?
So we brought True home from the hospital. On the way home from the hospital, she was good. She didn't cry. On the way to her first doctor's appointment, she didn't cry. On the way home, I was sitting in the backseat with her while my husband was driving, and she screamed from the moment we left the doctor to the moment we drove home. And it was in that moment that I just broke down. Like, I'm sitting in the backseat with this 2-3-day-old baby, and I'm just in tears. Mm-hmm. And so we get in the house, and I give her to my husband, and I just walked outside. And I'm walking down the street, and I called my mom, and I was just like, I just don't know why she's crying. Like, what did I do wrong? Why was this so bad? And my mom was just like, baby's crying. She was like, I mean, I'm here for you, but like, baby's crying. But I'm a very type A person, very black and white. Everything in my life is about the principle of the situation. So because she didn't cry, the first 2 car rides, I just thought, we were good. And so I knew then that my anxiety was amplified, but it was before that, now that I've had time to sit and think about it, it was really before that. When I was pregnant, I found out that I was pregnant a year ago, a couple days ago. It was February 16th. And I just remember when I found out that I was pregnant, I literally have a bag still. There's 37 pregnancy tests in the bag.
Oh, wow.
I took a pregnancy test every day for multiple times a day. Like, I would literally just be sitting at home and I was like, oh, I don't have another test. Like, let me make sure it's still positive. You know what I mean? Like, let me make sure, like, every day. And, when you get pregnant, you real freshly pregnant. So you're not going to the doctor for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And every day I was like, I just need to make sure I'm still pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I knew then that we went to the doctor, and the doctor You know, when we first went, she was like, maybe it's too early, but I'm not detecting a heartbeat. And I was just like, okay. And ever from that moment forward, every time I didn't feel her move, or every time I went to the bathroom one too many times, like every time there was something that was out of the ordinary from what you hear about being pregnant, it was over the top. Like my anxiety was just through the roof.
Okay, so wait a minute. You took the pregnancy test before the additional pregnancy test before she said, "Well, I'm not hearing the heartbeat," or this was
before. Even after
I got anxious. You just telling me what she said. I was like, wait a minute, lady, hold on.
So I called and made an appointment, and you know, she was like, "How far along are you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just found out I was pregnant." And so when they brought me in for my first appointment, it was too early. But I didn't know that. I've never been pregnant. They just told me to go to the doctor. Yeah. And so she was just like, "I see, you know, you are pregnant. Like I see a sac, but there's no, you know, I can't say anything." And so she was like, "But if you come back within like 3 to 5 days, this could look different." And to me, I was just like, 3 to 5 days. Okay. Let's go look, you know. And she was right though. Like in 3 to 5 days, it was a whole baby and it was a heartbeat and things like that. But I was just so anxious of like, am I really pregnant after I didn't took 50,000 pregnancy
So were you able to, in like, when you found out you were pregnant, were you able to enjoy it, but your anxiety took over to where you could say, "Oh, we're having a baby"?
I think the beginning of it was very enjoyable. So I think when I found out that I was pregnant, due to some family circumstances, we told our parents very quickly, and so they were able to like celebrating that with us and things like that. I think as the pregnancy progressed is kind of where it got bad for me. As you know, the baby was growing and I was getting bigger, you know, I would just kind of be like, I would look in the mirror and tell my husband, my stomach still looks the same as it did 2 weeks ago. Like my stomach isn't getting bigger. Or, you know, I didn't go to the bathroom as much as, you know, they say you go to the bathroom 24/7. Like I didn't go to the bathroom that much today. Like anything that was off or abnormal was an issue, but it was all because of what I heard. I'd never experienced it. But so to go into your question, the anxiety started very early. I just was unaware that that's what was going on.
That's what was going on.
And I've never, you know, carried a baby or had a baby, but I've been around people that had, and you look at them and they're walking around, you know, kind of sad, like, boy, if that was mine, I'd be sitting up rocking it and be all jumping for joy. But again, like I say, by people not knowing it, even the people that have had kids, some of them don't know what they're going through as they're going through.
Yeah.
And since every pregnancy is different, like my first pregnancy was completely different than my second pregnancy. And so it was like, you know, even if you have 10 children, each pregnancy may be different because you're getting older, your hormones change, this, that, and the other. And so, and the child is different, you know, the child is different. So, you know, like when I'm with the first child, it was like, okay, I wanted some, it was, one time when I'm around looking for snow cones, you know, this is
I had a snow cone every single day. Every day. As you can ask Garrett, every single day.
That was one of your questions that you made.
Every day.
Until we were at your baby shower, I was like, oh my God.
Sour blue raspberry, sour apple, every single day. I needed it like
so
it was
now
crap.
it used to be pickles that, you know, we were back in the day, people had pickles. So yours was snow cones. Did you ever crave pickles? Or that was the only thing you craved?
I craved snow cones until I found out at 20 weeks that I was borderline gestational diabetic, and I was just like, oh man. So the lady was like, "You want to put the snow cones down?" And on the way home, I was like, "Can we go get a snow cone?" I was like, one more.
Sugar free,
No.
You're going to go all the way. Go all the way.
That is hilarious. Okay. Go ahead.
And like we were saying, you know, postpartum depression comes in different stages. Where you were saying postpartum psychosis, to where it goes to the extreme.
So, you know, getting pregnant, I mean, we wanted a baby. Like my baby was planned. Like we wanted her. But you just don't hear about it until it's an extreme case on the news. And so, you know, when Tasha and I were talking about, I was like, y'all need to do a show about postpartum. This is crazy. You hear on the news, you know, Sally killed her 5 kids because she was going through postpartum psychosis, but you don't hear that this mama hasn't got out the bed other than to feed her kid and feed herself because she's depressed or her anxiety. For me, I was scared to drive it through in the car. I was scared to leave the house because in my head, I used to ask my mama every single day, what am I supposed to do when she cries? Like, if I'm in the front seat and my husband's at work, what am I supposed to do?
You want to let him ride, baby, let him ride.
But I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that, but
Yeah,
like
you didn't.
because the first experience was so traumatic, like literally, I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what do you?
And then when they cry, it's with my second son, it felt like it just vibrated, like my whole body just
No, when
vibrated.
True cry, listen, I don't vibrate. When True cry, it goes from 0 to 1,000 real quick. Like, I mean, true whimpers, and then it's just like full blown. We ain't changed since day one.
When we was taking pictures, wait a minute, True made a face, and your dad was like, uh-oh. And people like, oh, wait a minute, y'all get True. And he's like, no, she ain't did the whimper. She ain't did the whimper. She good.
It starts with the whimper, and then it just like.
And he said, oh, she started whimpering. Oh, wait a minute.
I think we have a joke. You got like 7 seconds. And it's just, yeah, I mean, you better have a bottle on standby. Yeah.
And we were talking before, like, because I was listening to a YouTuber, Donna Just Being Real, and she does like true crime and cover like new, what is it called? Trials that's in session right now. And there's a lady on trial right now for psychosis. She had psychosis. And like, she's like, I've documented the every day what I was, going through. I was like, who does that? Like, and she's like, you don't know because you're not going through it. Maybe that is what people, and so, and I think postpartum depression has, I mean, first of all, postpartum anything had been long not talked about because they were like, oh, women been having babies for 1,000 years. All you do is just push them out and then go home, and it's just instinctive. But it's not instinctive for everybody.
It's not. We talked about that a little bit today. Probably the hardest thing I'll admit on this show that when my baby came here, it was not a automatic motherly bond. I labored naturally. We chose to labor naturally. I labored at a birthing center. I did all the things that we planned to do. I did it with no medicine. It was all natural. And so I just knew, like when she got here, it was going to be everything. It was all the beautiful pictures you see on Instagram. And it wasn't. And it wasn't once we got home, and it wasn't on week 2. For me, it was a learning curve. For me, it was, I need to learn how to be your mom before I can feel like we besties. It was, now, I mean, we good as gold. Like me and True kick it, but it didn't come natural. And I think that society bashes moms for that, and moms can't admit that. Like you can't show up to the mom group and be like, yeah, when my baby got here, I just didn't feel the motherly bond with her. But that's a real thing. Yeah. It is. And for me, my husband is the most like the best dad, the best husband I could ask for. That bond there was established very early. And I'm grateful for them that it was, but it took some time. And I just feel like people are so embarrassed to say that because you're a mom, like people are just like the best time of my life for the 9 months when you were in my stomach. I mean, I'm grateful that True knows my heartbeat from the inside. The only person that can say that. But those 9 months were not the best 9 months of my life. I was grateful. My mom threw a beautiful baby shower. Y'all celebrated me well. Everybody, was excited for her to be here. But it took some time, and people do not talk about it. Like, and it's a thing.
Yeah, I was like, how you doing? She's like, I'm sick. I'm tired.
I was pregnant for 10 months. I was just like,
that's the other part. They talking about 9 months. I said, no, baby, when you add these 10 weeks. I was
pregnant for 10 months and 3 days.
I was like, I said, no, this is not 9 months, people. Y'all got to get this correct. Get the math right, because this is feeling like an eternity. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God.
But I was in a wellness holistic shop one day, and I'm taking her to it, and it was a young mother, and she was in there, and you could tell something was wrong with her. So the owner and I, I was kind of eavesdropping at first. At least honest. I'm honest. And the owner was like, honey, what's wrong? And she's probably about 24, 25. She said, I just gave birth to my daughter, I want to say like a week or so ago. And the owner was like, oh, well, that's beautiful. She said, no. She said, after I had her, I made the hard choice that I didn't want her, and I gave her away. Wow. She said, I just couldn't deal with being a mother. And she said, I told her, to hospital, whatever, I want to put her for adoption. I mean, so probably not listening to her talk, she had no support system.
Mm-hmm.
So to her, and I commend her for that. And the owner and I was telling her, we commend you for that because you recognized it early on that this wasn't for you. You couldn't handle it instead of doing something real drastic later on.
Yeah, so I think that's a big topic. Support is a huge topic. And so let me just go ahead and give a shout out to my parents and my husband because listen, I think that not having that support, I couldn't imagine. Like I didn't know what I needed that to look like after I had a baby until I had the baby. You know what I mean? Until she was here, and I was just like, I breastfed her for 6 weeks, and after 6 weeks, I decided it was too much mentally. Between that and my anxiety and my mental, it became a chore. And so when I never wanted to give her up, but when you said she knew she just couldn't do it. I fought for 6 weeks. I used to tell Garrett every single day, I don't want to do this anymore. Because when it would be time for her to eat, it was a chore. Like I didn't want to feed her. Like I wanted her to eat, but like it was a chore. It was a burden almost that like I had to be your nutritional source on top of already not knowing what I'm doing, on top of just being stressed out. And so support is everything. And I just remember calling my mama and I was just like, for me in my head, I kept saying I cannot quit breastfeeding because if I quit breastfeeding, I'm giving up when I'm capable. Like I can produce milk, I can feed her, I can't just give up. And my mom and Garrett both are just like, you not wanting to do it is enough of a reason to stop. Like, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to. Like you don't owe anybody an explanation. True is gonna be fed. Like things are gonna be okay. And so. But had I not had that support, if that girl knew that she didn't have anybody to tell her that, I would still be breastfeeding and I would probably be depressed at this point. True's almost 4 months old and she's chunky, she's fine, like she's growing. But if I didn't have that support, if my husband wasn't in one ear and my mama wasn't in another, we would not be having this conversation. I probably wouldn't even be sitting on y'all's couch today because that support is everything. Support is everything.
We talk about the mothers knowing what postpartum depression is or postpartum anxiety or psychosis, but the dads or whoever your life partner is need to know what that is also. Like we were saying, a couple of people that took it to the extreme. Andrea Yates, her husband knew something wasn't right with her and he still left her with the kids. She had 5 and I think one was, so she had gone through multiple pregnancies. And he was just like, I left her at home. I knew she wasn't feeling well, but I didn't know she would do this.
Yeah.
But maybe if the husbands are, the other life partner is trained on that, then, everybody's on the same page and you can recognize it and it won't go to that extreme.
Yeah.
Hey, my wife is not feeling, even acting right. I'm not gonna be able to come to work or get somebody to come over and sit.
So I think that's a big thing. So when Gary and I were talking about me being on the podcast last week, and he was like, well, what are y'all going to talk about? And I was like, postpartum. And he was like, you think you had that? And I was like, no, I don't think I was depressed. I was like, but my postpartum anxiety was pretty bad. And he was like, oh, that was different than your normal anxiety? And I was like, yeah. And, but honestly, he just didn't know. Garrett is used to anxious Justice who worries about everything. And so when I was anxious, he was just like, this is just who my wife is, But I definitely think, we were talking earlier about how when you go to the doctor, you go to your 6 week, you go to a 2 week checkup and a 6 week, something like that, and they have you fill out this paper and it's a 10 question questionnaire that pretty much says, are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you healthy? Has your husband hit you? No? Okay, great.
You're fine.
And they send you home. And literally it's just like, okay, we'll see you when you're pregnant again. But that's not enough. That's if I'm telling you, yes, I'm eating, yes, I'm sleeping, no, my husband hasn't hit me. Those are all very basic life skills that you have to do to stay alive, and hopefully your husband isn't beating you. So, what about how I'm feeling? And they do ask you, do you have thoughts of killing yourself? No. You have thoughts of killing your daughter? No. But that doesn't mean
you're not depressed or
exactly. So there needs to be education for everybody, but I definitely think that there needs to be paternal or whoever your spouse is, there needs to be education so you know what to look for. Because for me, I'm anxious every day, so it was just like Garrett probably expected this. He expected my behavior post having a baby because of my behavior pre having a baby. But my hormones were so amplified. Like men and women alike need to be educated on what hormone shifts are and all this different stuff. You know, I was just telling my mama the other day, we were having a conversation. I said, I literally feel like my hormones were like this for months, and then it just like fell off a cliff. And I felt it. Like you feel that shift, and you're just kind of like, whew, okay, let's try to reset and start over. So that education is definitely important.
And you know, when I knew it was serious, because I told you, I said, I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know.
Because you were coming on here to talk about, you know, public, reporting and all of that, and then you was like, you text me, you said, what about postpartum?
Yeah, it's important.
So I knew that it had to be serious because you was like, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about this. And I was like, hey, I'm open because a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, you know, even down to, you know, Tashari's my cousin. I've known Tashari all my life. She saved his favorite cousin in my phone. We've never had a conversation about what life looked like after she had LJ or DJ. Not to say that we had to, but like,
you just don't talk about it.
It's not talked about. You know, we have another cousin named Destiny. Destiny has 3 kids. We've never had a conversation about what life looked like.
Do they sleep at night?
We don't talk about those things. I mean, we do now that I'm a mom.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna say it's too late, but we should have that conversation.
Right.
We should have had that conversation last February when I found out I was pregnant. You know, so it's one of those things. It's not talked about enough, and it's not until you start having those conversations that you were just like, oh, like you went through this too, or like, oh, I guess we didn't talk for a while after you had a baby, or like, you know. And I think too, the bigger problem with all of this is you have this cute, cuddly little baby, and everybody texts you and says, "Oh, how's the baby doing? Can you send me pictures? Oh my gosh, when am I going to get to meet her?" And people don't stop to say, "How's mom? What do you need? Do you need a meal? Do I need to come sit down and hold her while you shower?" And I'm not saying that nobody does. That was not my story. No, people do that, but not enough. You know, they just focus on the new life, which is great. But she ain't going nowhere. She's gonna eat. She's gonna be happy. She's gonna cry. You know, the things. She's gonna do the baby things.
You know, and another thing, maybe I guess the healthcare system should put in place in some of these maternities, like you say, they give you this questionnaire and then they send you home, and everybody's gonna answer no because they're probably scared that if I answer yes in some of these, CPS gonna come in here tomorrow and take my child. But maybe they should put in place some type of therapist that after you have your every 2 week or 6 week visit, then they carry on over here to this therapist and let you sit down and talk, and they explain to you, you may be having this type of feeling, this was what this is. Right. Because like you say, a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's some people out there that don't have support systems. They're just out there doing it by themselves.
And I couldn't have, I mean, I give my hat off. I tell Gary all the time, people who are single moms have to do this stuff by themselves. I couldn't imagine.
What about, you know, even teenagers that's out there that's having kids, and maybe the mom is, you know, on drugs or something, and they end up getting pregnant. I mean, who talks to them? And
I mean, for me, I'm 28. I was just turned 20. So I was 27. We got pregnant. I'm 28. We're financially stable. We both have good jobs. None of that. You know, like none of that still prepares you for what it looks like when you come home with this new life.
And you seem like you say, your aunt. I don't know why I did.
Destiny is my aunt. Shout out to you, Destiny. You are my aunt.
Your aunt. It just seems like y'all more like cousins.
We're 5 years apart.
But your aunt have children. You've seen children. Some of your best friends have children. But like you said, nothing prepares you for having your own child. Whether especially giving birth or having through adoption or anything. I have never adopted, but to have this new life that's just bringing so much new and extra because they extra.
Yes, they are.
and like for me, I think I had postpartum depression and anxiety because overwhelmed and but I had, like I said, I had support. I had your mom, my mom, and everybody else, and but I still felt alone. But I would be driving somewhere and I'd be like, don't leave the baby in the car. Don't put him on top of the car. You might leave him. I would leave because I'm so with ADHD, and I'm like, I would put my your coffee on top of the car, drive out, whatever. I'm just sitting up there. I left my garage door open. I'm sitting up here and all these things. Do not leave because everything. So I'm just constantly like panic. All the time. Make sure that you do not leave this baby in the car. That's what and still kind of resonate. I do check back in there, and it's like, so having that support system is so essential. If you were to be able to just speak to expecting mothers or new mothers, what would you say to them? What would you what advice would you give to an expectant mother or a new mother? It might be different for both.
So I think that you can't look at it the same. There's moms who have children and they automatically bond with them and it's automatically like normal and they get home and everything is fine and I can take a shower and the kid sleeps all night and all these different things. It's different for everybody. True has never slept all night, not in my house. What goes on in grandpa's, I don't know, but not in my house. We're on a feeding every 2 hour schedule, things like that. I think literally, and it's like the most cliche thing that anybody can tell you, but it's a day at a time. Like you literally have to take it a day at a time. If I could talk about pregnancy in general, enjoy those moments. I mean, I personally don't want any more children. My husband and I have decided not to have any more children. I will never get those 10 months back again. You know what I mean? I'm thankful that we photographed it and I took a picture every day and I have all the things to remember it by. Mentally though, it probably wasn't the most enjoyable experience because I was so worried about, is she going to make it Earthside? And there was never a reason for me to believe she wasn't. I was borderline gestational diabetic. People have gestational diabetes every day. There was nothing that warranted me to be so anxious about, is my kid going to be here in 9 months or whatever the case may be. And so I think it's really a day at a time. But if I could say anything, like it's take the shame off of you. And I think a lot of people will say, oh, I'm not ashamed. I'm not embarrassed. That literally 9 times out of 10 is probably what it is. You don't want to pick up the phone and call your best friend and say, hey girl, can we talk for a second? And that conversation leads to, today I'm anxious and I feel like my baby might not make it. And it's okay to say it. I have no reason to feel like that, but that's just how I feel today. Can we talk through it? It's okay for you to get home with the baby and say, I did get to sleep last night, but I woke up today and I'm still tired, and she won't stop crying, and I'm having to feed her every 2 hours, and I can't keep up with washing the bottles and doing the laundry, and I feel like a bad wife today because I don't even know if I told my husband I love you before he left, but it's okay to pick up the phone and say these things. It's okay to leave the baby at home and say, I just need to go have a lunch date with whoever. I think my advice would just be to remember that, and somebody just told me this the other day, and I have to like drill it in my head every single day. Me as a wife, me as True's mom, and me and Justice are 3 different people. My life has changed drastically. Y'all, this is family. Y'all know me. Garrett and I traveled. We can get up and go wherever we want. Like things don't look like that anymore. I have to remember to put diapers in a diaper bag and bring some wipes just to go to Target. I'm just going to Target. And the other day, yesterday, I had to go to Target to get something to do my hair, so I looked decent on your show. Ordered the stuff for Target pickup. Got to Target, the lady was like, it was the wrong Target. True was asleep. I didn't have a stroller, but we had to go inside. I needed hair product. And even in that moment, I was so anxious. I sat in the car and I did this after the lady said it was the wrong Target, and I was just like, I just failed my kid. I specifically took this drive because I knew she was going to be asleep. I had no intentions of getting her out, and I didn't bring the stroller because we were going on a walk when I got home. But here we are. Now I have to carry this stroller through Target, and she's probably going to wake up because it's cold outside and all the things. So I would just say you got to give yourself grace. Yeah. I remind myself of that every day. Grace. Pregnant, expecting, you just brought a baby home, you've been a mom for 10 years, grace. Yeah.
That is true, because it don't stop. It does not stop. You're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe my child just did that in the store. I look, I'm still like, I know people think I'm just a horrible mother. I don't give a darn. I can just see whatever.
And I think that's another thing too. I say all the time, and I have to catch myself and just I was sitting at Target and I was just like, I failed my kid. Yeah, she was supposed to be taking a nap. We were supposed to drive here, just drive right home. And Garrett says all the time, like, you didn't fail her. She probably thinks you're the coolest person in town. She probably thinks, we just went to Target. But to me, because
she knows you like to see more people.
Because it didn't go as planned, and I could have ruined her nap or whatever the case may have been.
But she had to have 1,000 more naps.
She slept the entire time. She slept the entire time home from Target. She let me get my hair product. She even let me sit in the car and eat. It was just it was a good Target run, but I couldn't get past the fact that I felt like I did something wrong.
Somebody said, what if you want one more baby?
I've tried to talk her into one more, baby. I told her.
So let's have a conversation.
Let's have a conversation.
Let's talk about this. This is one of those. Let's sit up and talk about it. I think, and this is like serious. I know we like to joke and laugh. I think that we have to get away from the notion of what's coming next in other people's lives. I think that you go to high school, you graduate, you go to college, and then you get your husband, and then you get married, and then you get married, and you buy a house, and you buy a house, and you buy a dog, and then you get pregnant, and the next question is, when are you going to have another one? I find it disrespectful. And I think that a lot of people probably find it disrespectful, but it's such a cliche, socially acceptable thing that like everybody does it, but it's not okay. Because you never know what said person went through to get this one. You never know how bad somebody's depression was as to why they didn't want another one. You never know anything. For me, I don't want another child because I don't want to. And that's okay. You know what I mean? I don't want another baby. I am good with what I have.
Just
my pregnancy to me was like, I did not have the best pregnancy. I'm sure people have had it worse. I don't want another child. What we've gone through in the last 16 weeks with the sleep deprivation and all this different stuff, I don't want to experience it again. But my husband and I live a life where I know that my daughter will be well taken care of, and I'm in a position to where I can do, or we can do rather, what we want for our child. And so I find it, people joke about it, and so I was like, when's the next one? Or like, give her a brother. That's not cute. Like those questions.
And I'm known for doing that.
Me too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't until I think I became somebody's mom that I was like, cut it out. Like that's not cool. Because at the end of the day, me not wanting to give her a brother does not make me any less of a mom. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make my husband, or in the notion too, like if we could get away with, oh, I had a girl, give your husband a boy. Your husband doesn't have to have a boy. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to. Or, they need the sibling. They don't need anything. They need to be taken care of, and they need to be loved.
Water
and exactly. And so, I think, for whoever said it, it's a normal question. I'm not saying that you're disrespecting me or anything by any means, but I think it's something that we as a society, we have to get away from. You never knew if it took a mom 15 years to have our first kid and she's 40. Maybe she can't have another one. Maybe this one was like by the grace of God, it just worked out. Like we got to get away from that.
And a lot of people, now that you broke it down, like I said, I'm guilty of that. A lot of people never looked at it from that perspective, and until you started like, well, shoot, she's right. Yeah, because I know people that had to go through IVF, and they're in heterosexual relationships and they're having problems. Like you say, you just never know what people going through to get the one that they do have.
But
you're talking
even
about
if they didn't go through anything,
or they just don't want it.
You just don't have to do it.
You
just don't have to do it.
And some people start out knowing at a young age, I want to have one child so I can just enjoy them. They can be this, that's what they want. Yeah. I mean, it's like they say, no is a complete sentence. I said no, and that's what I mean.
I say, well, we need 4 because what if we go to Six Flags? They need riding partners.
And I say, what? They're going to be on the couch people.
We don't go to Six Flags.
And then one of the things that I text you and I said, I am so proud of you. Like saying, I'm done breastfeeding and this is it. I say, because some people just do things because that's what's expected, or do things because you don't, want nobody to say, well, this is the best thing for them. And I said, man, this folks been living off, babies that's been on formula for 30, however long formula been. Yeah. Okay, so if that's what you choose to do, that's very, that was very brave. I don't know. That's just. And I didn't even know you had anxiety. I just thought because you always seem well put together and speak your mind and all this kind of stuff. So even before you got pregnant, I was like, shoot, that's just. Because I guess that's just you, because I know I never get, And so before the pregnancy and everything, how did you realize that you had this anxious? Or did you do anything about it to make it easier?
I think I've always just been a worrier. I worry about everything. Stuff that I don't need to worry about. I think excuse me, it probably started in college. I moved 10 hours away from home. I was on my own. And I was an excellent high school student. I breezed through high school, everything was fine. Got to college, and college was hard. College was hard. I was failing classes. I couldn't pass math. I couldn't do other things. And I was always so worried about like what somebody was gonna think.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? To you, like you just said, you know, you have put together, you speak your mind, and you know, I try to present well, but when I couldn't pass math for like 5 times, I kind of was just like, is it gonna look bad if I don't graduate on time? Is it people gonna look at me because I'm stupid? You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I think college really brought on that worry. I went to the #1 journalism school in the country, and my parents, my family, shout out to y'all for supporting me. We got through it. You know, I have a degree, all the things. But I mean, you will worry about any and everything. Like, you know, my mama was just like, you got 4 years, get in there and get out of there. You know, she's like, whoo, okay, all right, the time starts now. But when things didn't go according to plan, you know, I went to college and I was like, okay, I want to go to college. I want to work on TV. I want to be AKA. I want to do all these things. I want to live on my own. I don't want to live in the dorm anymore. I want to do all these things. And you kind of just like, it just became everything. I was just worried about it. You know, like what if I can't do this? What if I can't do this? And I wouldn't say that I'm a perfectionist, but when I have my mind set on something that is supposed to go a certain way, when it doesn't go that way, it's not good for me. And it makes my mind, like, that's when the anxiety started. So I think, you know, that, and, you know, probably near the end of college when it was time to start applying for jobs. Who knew that finding a job being on television was hard? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a whole degree from the #1 journalism school. Why can't I find a job? I watched all of my classmates, I mean, for months. I'm moving to Kentucky. I'm moving to Texas. I'm moving to Tennessee. And I was just like, and I'm sitting here eating Pringles, watching y'all with y'all's acceptance letters. Here we are. And the anxiety was just so bad because I just remember saying, I don't know if I'm ever going to get a job. Am I going to have to just go back home? You know what I mean? Like, I've done all of this. Am I going to just have to, did I fail? And so I think, to answer your question, that's really where the anxiety stemmed from. I would say that, you know, it was just everything not going according to plan. And you would have thought that I would have learned my lesson then, but I didn't, because here we are. I'm still talking about this anxiety, but I definitely think college played a big part in it.
I think that I don't think you ever like kind of get over it. You kind of have learned different coping mechanisms or different things that help get through different situations, and you have to create new coping mechanisms depending on situation. And some people are going through anxiety and other things, and then they in denial. At least you are self-aware enough to know and to be able to implement things that help you kind of.
But it's not even, a lot of them may not even be in denial. Who knows?
Don't know.
Because when I had my first anxiety attack, I thought I was having a heart attack. You know, so I mean, a lot of people are like, oh Lord, I'm dying.
And you got both.
You know,
the whole spectrum.
You know, I was like, oh God.
But some people are like, ain't nothing wrong with it.
Maybe what's so wrong with it?
It could be that they don't know.
They don't know.
They may have been told and they still deny it.
You know, but it's like you say, that's what our podcast is about, is just putting all types of awareness out there. You know, and where people don't have to be ashamed, because like you say, people are ashamed to call their friends and say, hey, this is going on with me. But if you have a platform where they can sit in the comfort of their own home and say, man, I'm doing, that's me.
Yeah.
Let me call somebody.
I think being ashamed too is a really big thing, because I think because we don't talk about it, you know, I used to tell my mom all the time. So I was in college when Cherry had LJ, and when I would come home, you know, Cherry was always like teaching him all the things, and he was so smart, and he didn't know his letters, and I was like, Cherry is like this cool mom, like her kids are so smart, like all these different things, and whatever was going on behind the scenes, we didn't talk about it, so I didn't know. So to me, that's just what it was supposed to look like, you know? And so it almost makes it hard to say, like, can I pick up the phone and call to Sherry? Because she was like the perfect mom, and her kids are super smart, and like all these different things, because that's just what you saw. But because we don't talk about it, you don't know, like, Sherry was over here struggling, crying, you know what I mean? Trying to teach these kids their letters, you know, she just wanted what was best for her.
And all of that.
She just wanted what was best for her children, as we all do. But when you don't see it, you know, Destiny, my aunt that we were just talking about, I mean, we talk about it now that I have a kid, you know, she'll call and check, how's the baby? This is what I did, whatever. Me and Destiny have a kid that are about a year apart, but we talk about it now, and I'm glad that we do. But when you don't talk about it, you don't know to call. Some of my very best friends, I have a friend who has, I was the last person in my friend group to have a baby. So I have friends who have kids that are older than I. And even then, you know, it's comfortable now to call and be like, hey, tell me how you got through X, Y, and Z. But I mean, even then, you know, you kind of think, what friend have I had a conversation with this friend about her kid not sleeping? Or is her kid a perfect sleeper and she can't help me with this? Because you don't talk about it, because motherhood is like isolating sometimes. You don't think to talk about it because you trying to get a couple hours of sleep,
Yeah, and then you for some reason, like society, to me, I feel like society just expects for women just to be natural at it, like they're supposed to. Poof, you here it is now.
And people understand that being a mother is natural. When once you give birth, it's natural. Like I said, I've never had a child, so I wouldn't know. But when you look at women, because a lot of it's probably hidden, it just looked like, oh, look, they're doing so well. Like you say, they're struggling on the inside.
I think the whole notion of like it's natural is because it's what our bodies were made to do. You know what I mean? Your body was made to birth a baby and all those things, but like the physical act of having a baby and the emotional and mental toll of having a baby are two completely different things. So,
and somebody who's never been sleep deprived before, because I'm used to being sleep deprived because I was in the military. So you went, you go days without no sleep. But when that child started crying and you just ringing and just whatever, it's like, what? And but it's funny because I said I'm so set on schedule. So before I knew in my head that I wanted them to have some type of sleep schedule. So and that went well. And then there goes potty training. I'm like, okay, they just sit on the toilet every 2 hours. And they had all these different things. I said, you know what? Forget it. You're just gonna go. If you're 30 and you're still in the diaper, that's what it's gonna be.
She don't mean it.
Because I was just frustrated because I had tried all this thing, just letting them walk around. They say, well, just let them walk around.
Now you're peeing on your floor.
Everywhere. I'm like, you got a brother or somebody that can watch me. I was like, okay, go watch. I said, let him watch. And I was like, none of this stuff was working. And then I think I was talking to A. Gaydell. She was talking about, child, they just gonna go when they want. They just gonna go when they want. But then the same, this was after probably a year of her saying, all my kids was potty trained when they were 8 months old. As soon as they started walking, then they were and all this different stuff. So it's like, it's very disheartening when things don't go as anticipated. Like you said, especially people who are highly functioning in every other aspect, and it could be right now we're talking about postpartum anxiety, depression, psychosis, and things like that. But it could be an array of things that cause hormonal changes or any type of thing. So we have to make sure that we have clear lines of communication open to your friends, loved ones, peers, and whoever your network is. And Minister Terry that's on here, he always say you have to have a circle. And who's in your circle?
Yeah, Tasha mentioned a village earlier. It's a thing. To that point, I think I'm not gonna say I'm a scheduled person, but I'm a very type A person. Sleep has always been. You can ask my daddy; he would tell you all day. Sleep is important. If I get in the car, we're going to sleep. If you let me sit down long enough, we're going to sleep. And so for the first month that I had True, I was breastfeeding, and I'm real big. If the doctor said feed the baby every 2 hours, then feed the baby every 2 hours. And so Garrett. Shout out to you, my saving grace. Garrett would bring the baby to me, let me feed her, let me go back to sleep. And we did this every 2 hours for the 4 weeks he was at home. And I remember saying week 3.5, I was like, okay, I can't keep sleeping like this because you're going back to work. I'm going to be at home with the baby. He had a month off. I had 12 weeks off. And so I was like, I can't keep doing this. And I remember telling myself, I was just like, my baby doesn't even know me. She knows that I feed her, but she has spent all this time with her dad, all these different things. And I remember just saying to myself, what am I going to do when Garrett goes back to work? Garrett has changed every diaper. Garrett, the only thing that I did for 4 weeks, I was just her source of nutrition. He just let me sleep. Because that was probably one of the hardest adjustments for me. I'm good to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep. I will go to bed at 7 o'clock and not wake up until 7 o'clock the next morning. I'm going to go to sleep. That's one thing I'm going to do. So the sleep part was really hard for me. Like, parents tell you that all the time. Sleep while you can. While you're pregnant, you better get all the sleep, all the naps you can in now. You never in life know what people mean until you bring a baby home. And so it's one of those things, they tell you to feed the baby every 2 hours. We did that. They tell you to do X, Y, and Z. Garrett reminds me all the time, every day. it's just not gonna work out the way you think. It's just not. You know what I mean? I say, oh, she's supposed to have 8 wet and dirty diapers every day. She only had 6 today. Like, what did we do wrong? And he was just like, she just peed 6 times today. That was it. You know what I mean?
Like, you peed twice in that one diaper.
So the schedule and all of that, I've had to learn. This part of my life has just been a big season of you just gotta let it go. She gonna sleep when she wanna sleep. She gonna pee when she wanna pee. As long as she ain't sick and you don't have a reason to go to the doctor, let it go. But that has been so hard for me. The act of letting it go, because I just want it to be right and perfect, and the way not being able to have her on a sleep schedule. True is a horrible sleeper. She's a horrible napper. In my head, I was just like, yeah, I mean, at 11 and at 1:30 and at 3:30 and then at 6 o'clock, we'll feed you, and then we'll go to bed. No.
You're not horrible. She's just doing it the true way. She's doing it her way. And she's doing it her way right now.
On her time.
In her time. And then, you know what? And then the 6 months is going to look different than in 9 months and a year and all that.
At 6 days look different than 16 days and 16 weeks.
I'm glad that you said just take it one day at a time, because it's going to all look different.
But, we're talking about women having postpartum or what did you say, prepartum?
I think the anxiety of I don't know if it's called prepartum. That's just kind of what I named it.
Okay. I like it. It's a pre and a post. But I think it also comes with, it can also happen to the men. I mean, even though you're not carrying it, I mean, the reason I'm saying that because we had tried, several, a time or so, but
several times.
But the thing about it is, like, the whole time I'm sitting up there, okay, well, when she get pregnant, is she gonna make it? I got all this stuff running through my head. I've never voiced it till today. But you sitting up there and you going through the same anxiety. So I think men have that pre-anxiety or depression or whatever you want to call it also, because this is your child that somebody's carrying and you want to make sure everything is good. Just like they say, some men they get the cravings that the women crave, So I think that men have it also, and it's something that we should talk about too, because maybe they're ashamed to let somebody know that they're nervous that something's going to be wrong with their child.
So I think people say all the time, how people treat you when you're pregnant, how your spouse treats you when you're pregnant, is something you'll never forget. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I mean, I have a great husband on any given day. My pregnancy was seamless at home. I mean, not the pregnancy itself. My pregnancy was seamless at home because of my husband. But I think a lot of times when you think back on it, you have to stop and ask yourself, did I ever ask Garrett how he felt about that? When we went to the doctor and when we went and got the 20-week anatomy scan, we got the scan and the lady was like, let's go ahead and do the testing to make sure everything is good. And that's a worry. You worry, is my kid gonna have X, Y, and Z? And not that you would love them any less, but it's a worry. And I think the whole time Garrett just stood solid as a rock for me, because I'm one to vocalize and express how I felt. But to your point, we should have gotten in the car and I should have said, how do you feel about this? If this test comes back with this, how do you feel? Or if I do have gestational diabetes and we have to change the way we're doing things, what does that look like for you? Or, if this baby comes early, it's normal. Babies come early all the time. But if this baby comes early, are you prepared? How do you feel? We don't give men enough credit because we just want them to be our rock. But that's important. Those conversations definitely should happen. And I think that it's all about a shift in mindset. It's not this isn't just my baby. And I have to catch myself all the time to, in conversation, my baby this, my baby that. Like, that's ours. Like, she looked just like him. That's really his baby. But you know what I mean? Like, I was just the incubator. But, so that support from men definitely should.
Because we just expect for the partner and the husband to be, solid. But they're still solid, even though they may have a concern. Yeah. And I'm still okay. I'm still solid too, just because I have this anxiety or this moment of whatever.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that needs to be talked about. And
you know what? Because I'm not the one person, like anything go down, I'm probably not going to call, whatever. But if you need me, I'm there. You call me, I'll be like, okay, yeah, you need whatever it is. But I'm not the person to be like, how are you doing? I'm just not. And I think that I always say I need to do a better job. But I don't know. I'm just throwing that out
Yeah.
there.
I think another important thing too is, there's, moms out there that are new moms, expecting moms, whatever the case may look like. I think too, we talked about having a village, it is vital, important not to lose yourself in your child. It's easy actually, because they become like my household has changed dramatically. You know what I mean? What it looks like for us now and what it looked like for us 4 months ago is different. And so I think that you have to know that it's okay to ask. Garrett and I went to a basketball game a few weeks back, and it was a Thursday night. My parents go to work, and I wanted to go to the basketball game. We were going to celebrate something. I wanted to go, and so I called a couple weeks in advance, and I was like, hey, on this Thursday, can you watch the baby, blah, blah, blah. Well, on Saturday, I can't remember what we did that Saturday, but I needed them to watch the baby on Saturday too. And in the back of my head, I ain't gonna even lie, I was like, that's 2 days in a row in 1 week. They have to go to work. They have a life. But like, I needed it. You know what I mean? Like Garrett and I was like, okay. So I was like, I can come pick her up after the game on Thursday. We were in Dallas, and my mom was like, no, she can stay. Just come get her in the morning, before you go to work. And so I think a big thing too, you have to know it's okay to ask for help. And asking for help looks different for everybody. In that regard, I just needed you to take her because we wanted to go to a basketball game. But another Saturday, I'm sure I've called and said, can you watch True, just because she's been crying all week long and I just need a break. And they were just like, yeah.
And your mom was so cute because she was, I talked about her. I said, Kim over there. Like I told you, we went to eat. I said, Kim doing all that big talk. I ain't keeping no babies until they get out of diapers. I'm not doing all that. And I said, look at Kim over there. Going to the bathroom to change. She called me before I came over here.
She called me before I came over here. I can watch True while you go do your interview. Those babies changed though. They changed them.
Totally different.
They changed them. I'm grateful though. I ain't talking about you. I'm grateful.
I think it's just adorable. I think it's just adorable. You have to know Kim to think, you have to know her.
Because she's like,
I ain't doing it. When they get out of diapers, they can stay all night.
She be doing it. And True wear diapers. That's her girl.
So we're concluding the podcast. So we, about to conclude the podcast. If anyone has any questions for Justice, please put it in the comments. And as we conclude, do you have any final questions or?
I think we answered it all. Like I say, you just have to, like you say, ask the dads or your partner, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
You have to.
And I want to have you back to talk about the whole experience in transitioning from college on to journalism. So put us on your calendar once again, because I just thought you were going to be an attorney, because you interrogate everything. Like you would ask 1,000 billion questions. I'm like, well, what about this? And what about this? And so I was surprised. He's like, I'm going to journalism. I was like, oh my God, do I know my cousin?
And you're doing it to be like the simplest. You remember we was at Christmas and Destiny had this little charade. And I was like, my Angela, you said, Tasha. And she was, how did you know that was mine? Like out of all the things, if we were held hostage, they said, who was that? I mean, like you say, you interrogate no matter what.
And it just seemed like now that I understand that there's a lot more to journalism than just being on camera.
You definitely want to present.
So we definitely want to have you back.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's an important.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
We'll talk about it in a different podcast, but
Yes.
the TV is not as glitz and glam as I thought I was going to be an attorney too. I decided not to go to law school. I also thought that I was going to be on TV in New York for the rest of my life, and I am sitting on your couch in Texas. So yeah, I mean that's definitely a good one. We'll have to talk about that.
But any final words about postpartum anxiety versus depression versus psychosis that you have for the audience?
I think I would just say, just know that what you're feeling is normal. I mean, it's not normal to be depressed. Like that's not normal. So when you're feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, know that it probably has something to do with the shift in your hormones after having a baby, things like that. But also know that there's help out there. I said, yes, you go to the doctor, you get the 10-question questionnaire, but they ask you those things like, be honest. They ask you those things because they want to help you. They want to give you the resources. We say that we don't talk about it enough, but there are resources out there. There are people, you know, to help you. And I think too, know that just because you're feeling something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have postpartum depression or anxiety. You just might be a new mom and you're just trying to figure it out, you know? So I think have the conversations, make sure you have that support, and you know, hold those babies tight because they get big so fast.
No, don't. Now I had another question. I had one more thing. So you had the natural everything and the doula situation. Let's hit on the doula situation because we have one of my very good friends here on YouTube is a doula, and so I was like, oh, this is amazing. So
I'll make it quick. Yeah. So we started out, my husband and I started out going to a regular OBGYN at the hospital. And I knew, like I said, I didn't want any more children, and I just wanted this to be a very intimate experience. And so I brought it up to my husband about having a baby at a birthing center, and Garrett was just like, you know what I mean? Because all you know is like a hospital and the medicine and all the things. And so once we finally got on one accord, the birthing center that we birthed at, they required you to have a doula if you were a first-time mom.
Okay.
I knew nothing about a doula. I mean, I know people who are doulas, but I didn't know, you know, what that looked like. And so after some recommendations, I hired a dual doula team. So I had a doula and a backup doula in case, you know, something went wrong. And what that looked like was prepartum, since we made this statement, prepartum, they would come over, they would help clean, cook, do whatever I need to do. This is all while I was pregnant. They would, you know, give me exercises, things like that. We checked in once a week to make sure things were good. It was just the support that you needed. At my birth, I was in labor for 15 hours. They were there for the entire 15 hours from the time that my water broke. They met me at the birthing center until I had her. And then postpartum, they came over, they cooked, they put up my laundry, they snuggled my baby, they let me take a shower, just things that you just don't have time to do, you know? And so I believe that the Black maternal mortality rate is so high. You go to the hospital and these Black women, and no offense to people on here that are not Black women go to the hospital and they don't come home. And it's because they voice their concerns and they're not always heard. And so if you can afford it, if you can budget it, if you can check with your insurance, I wholeheartedly recommend a doula team. And if you can get, to Sherry mentioned earlier, if you can get a postpartum doula, do it. I mean, it is a little costly, but if you can even get somebody for the first week or two to come, I mean, you need all the help you can get. And so look into the doula situation. If you need recommendations, reach out to them. I'll recommend you, you know, the people that we went through. But doulas are super important, and they are the voice for my doulas were my voice when I didn't know that, you know, this wasn't okay, or like I didn't want to do this, you know, or whatever. You know, we talk about making our ancestors proud all the time. Our ancestors as Black women would not be proud of how many Black babies and mamas don't make it home. And so I think that the doulas have been trained to do exactly what it is that you need done without knowing you need it.
And what the not prepartum, but anyway, when you were pregnant, was it they came every week?
They didn't come every week, so we
virtually
checked in every week on the phone, and I had it might have been 2 or 3 visits where they came to the house. We went outside and exercised. We talked. We washed dishes. I mean, we didn't. They did. But no, like
they did what you need.
They did what I needed. You know, they would walk in the house and just say, "You go sit down and you tell me what do you need." And you know, I to me, I don't need anything. I ate already. You know, and I had to think. I was like, it's 15 loads of laundry down the floor. Can you please go put those in the drawer? You know, stuff like that. But you don't know you need it until somebody is at your door saying, like, how can I help? You know, what can I do to serve you? And that's literally what my doulas did. They find their sole purpose in life is to serve mamas, to make the transition easier.
And I'm glad you talked about that, the mortality rate of mothers and babies, because like you go in, they say, oh, you got fibroids. Let me take your uterus, your ovaries, your this, and that, and you walk around and you just a shell. Like it's so much more that we're gonna have to talk about.
Yeah.
But that'll be on another day.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for viewing, everyone live in full effect in the chat, those that are on Facebook. as well as in the background here and those on the replay. Can't do it without you. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button and share the stream. And like we said, it is so important to have these conversations that don't get enough, attention or whatever. Traction, yeah. And we'll see you all in the next one. Peace.
Bye.
Somebody gonna have to